So 2023 was a pretty busy year from a standard setting perspective, and as the Assurance Guidance Committee we had to do a lot of commenting around those standards, and then some of the standards that came into place in prior years we had to do some implementation. So just at a high level, I think commenting ISO 570 revised, which is the new going concern standard that's coming into place, was probably one of the big standards that we commented on as a committee. And whoever's watching this video might be thinking, well, those were limited scope changes, but I think they were small changes with big impact. So I was very excited, and I think the committee was very excited to share our thoughts around, the new requirements around how auditors report ongoing concern and so on. So that was a big one. I think on a more local front, the other big comment project that we had as the Assurance Guidance Committee was providing input into our regulator, the IRBA's due process policy updates, and that's quite important because the IRBA is looking to streamline and put in place better processes around how new standards are developed in the South African market, and that's very important for our members, specifically auditors, but also I think a lot of those proposals are for the greater good of society, and we were very excited to actually feed into their process and give them some comments around how that should happen. So I think towards the end of the year, we did a project to look at the IRBA inspections report from 2022 and map that to guidance that we've done in the past, and then think about ways that we can develop further guidance for auditors going forward. And the thing that makes me most excited about this project is we stepped out of our comfort zone a little bit as the Assurance Guidance Committee, and instead of focusing very much on technical guidance, we tried to focus on accessible guidance and like micro-learning, small little things that people can pick up, address their concerns, figure out where their knowledge gaps are, point them to other resources. And the idea is just to make assurance guidance a little bit more accessible, more out there, more open, and I think it's moving with the times. In 2023, people don't have time to read long, lengthy documents, so that's quite exciting. So we started that project towards the end of this year, and that's going with us into 2024, and I think it's generated a lot of energy among the agency members, and we're really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that in 2024 as well. So challenges in 2023, this first one is not a 2023 problem, it's just a all the time problem, time and capacity. So all of our members are people who have a day job and basically do the AGC role or the assurance guidance role in their spare time. So that does come with its challenges. It does take us a little bit longer to get things off the ground, to get traction. But one of the things that we've done in this year is, instead of just sticking to our quarterly meeting agenda or our quarterly meeting timeline, we've actually started doing interim meetings, which are more interactive working type meetings, and those are quite energetic and nice. So that's been a nice way for us to actually interact a little bit more and get more things done than we would have just in our normal quarterly meetings. I think another challenge that we always work on is striving for perfection over progress, and I guess this is one where we keep each other honest. So because we're a group of very technical individuals, we tend to try and get to a very perfect answer, but sometimes we kind of need to take the step back and say, well, is this good enough? What's really, again, to the accessibility point, what's going to be useful for members, and keep ourselves to that mandate while still holding the technical integrity of what we put out as guidance. So in terms of unexpected outcomes, I think we had a very interesting discussion at the start of the year around fraud, and it kind of started from the perspective that the members of the committee thought that auditors needed more guidance on fraud, etc. And in brainstorming that discussion, what actually landed up is that we didn't need more technical guidance on fraud. The standards exist. We've had many technical discussions and pieces of guidance put out during the years, but what we really needed was a more cross-functional discussion around how fraud impacts the economy, the industry, the market. And what came out of that, which wasn't necessarily directly an AGC project, it started with an AGC discussion, but what came out of that was a fraud event that SAICA put out in September of this year. And that was just very much talking to different players in the South African economy around, how fraud affects us and what that means. And I think that was useful for auditors, specifically because just having that broader perspective helps you assess risk, audit risk in a lot more tangible way. But it was interesting and unexpected for me because it was not technical guidance, which is not something that we generally get involved with. We're very much on the technical stuff, and that was kind of interesting to see how a technical discussion turned into something very practical and realistic.